Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy on this busy fall? What am I talking about? Spring show as we start the month of April. We've got, this is kind of like we kind of sense the sports year kind of starting to throttle out of fifth gear a little bit because we got the Final Four coming up next week, or this coming weekend, rather. We've got, baseball is, in conference play, softball's in conference play, and it's coaching season. And we got some Hall of Fame talk to get to, actually. So, I don't know, guys. Do you feel like it gets busier this time of year with a whole bunch of stuff going on, or is it like you start kind of breathing a little easier?
No, it's great. I slept last night. It was so much fun. I really, I woke.
That makes
today
one of
is
us.
like, Today is like the first day that I haven't really had to do anything like sports writing wise in a long time. So this Wednesday has been fantastic. I listened to like just 20 podcasts and ate pita bread. It was really a great day for me.
That sounds great. Was there hummus involved? I hope there was hummus involved.
You bet there was hummus
5 different
involved.
varieties.
You got that spicy red pepper hummus. You got the garlic oil.
Yes. Yeah. Now we're talking. So we are Black and Gold Banneret, the home of UCF Sports on SB Nation. You can follow us at UCF_Banneret on Twitter, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret, and of course, blackandgoldbanneret.com. Follow us individually at Jeff_Sharon, Eric Lopez Zilo, and Spokes_Murphy. All right, so let's dive in with kind of like where we left off last week. And where we left off last week was, oh my God, Johnny Dawkins might be leaving. Turns out that that's not exactly going to happen. Things kind of got very hot and heavy, and then they quieted down, just like we thought was happening at the time. And it turns out that Vanderbilt is now making a move toward Jerry Stackhouse, a former North Carolina star, a longtime NBA player, becoming their head coach. He's currently an assistant coach right now, but nonetheless, Johnny Dawkins' name is going to be consistently coming up in coaching circles around a number of potential openings, both maybe right now and then maybe coming as a result of what's happening right now. So, real quick, I do want to touch upon this because there's not too much news to talk about, but Brian Murphy, you've been following this situation for quite some time now. What is the latest scuttlebutt, if you will, surrounding Johnny Dawkins?
That it's not Vanderbilt, and if it's not Vanderbilt, then maybe it's Virginia Tech, because Virginia Tech's Buzz Williams is going to Texas A&M, and if it's not Virginia Tech, then maybe it's TCU, because TCU's Jamie Dixon is going to UCLA. And really, it's probably none of those things, because really, at the end of it, it sounds like that no news is good news for UCF, and he'll probably just stay here. And we wasted some time, but what
are you talking about? We got some good hashtag content out of this.
We got some hashtag content out of it, and isn't that all what Johnny Dawkins and all of us really wanted in the end?
I know we appreciate that, Coach Dawkins. I will say this though, I'm not going to rest easy until I hear something from UCF. I would imagine that we would hear something about, possibly an extension. Is that right? I mean, it's maybe not, or maybe if not an extension, maybe a renegotiation and a raise, perhaps. No,
yeah, probably. Definitely. There's something will happen, but it certainly sounds like that there's no, like, if there was smoke there. If there was any fire, now there's like no smoke. So
right. There was a lot of smoke. We were asphyxiating there for a second, and then.
Well, but how much of the smoke was real and how much of the smoke was like nonsense? I mean, BS. I mean, bad order. I figured Murph that Johnny Dawkins maybe is going to be close to a done deal at all three places you just mentioned that might be available. I mean, why not? Let's just throw that out there, because I think I think social media has kind of hurt the media's, perception, if you will, because I think John Alba from Spectrum Sports had it accurately. I think Vanderbilt was interested in Johnny Dawkins. I think the other reporting was not accurate. And when you depend on a Vandy booster or donor, that's probably not a good source to have.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that that those are bad sources. I just think that how the story gets characterized is really what the difference is. I think everyone got taken aback by the whole, the two words that kind of like really stood out, obviously, were done deal, or four words rather, close to a done deal, right? And John, to his credit, did pull back on that and say, yeah, they're interested, but it's not close to a done deal here. There's still lots to go. There's still lots to go about with this. So, so that's fair. I think that, John deserves credit for kind of throttling that back. Last week on the podcast, Ken kind of was a little worried about that level of, assertiveness, I'd say, and we kind of expressed that to him. I thought that they treated it fairly.
To clarify, John was not the one that reported that it was a done deal. He just said that Vandy was interested. Right,
which is true.
I agree. I think John was right. I think John did a good job.
Yeah.
I just think when we jumped in, and when you're on Twitter, I think this is where Twitter kind of can be harmful. You're coming out with source tells me it's pretty much close to a done deal. I mean, it's a booster. A booster here's the thing. Having hung out with donors, one thing they like to do is talk, and they like to talk even if they don't really know what's going on. They want to pretend they know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I think you sometimes get caught in a situation like that, and especially in this off season where everybody's talking.
But then it becomes a semantic thing, right? I think that's really where the whole thing kind of fell apart a little bit. It was a little bit more of a semantic thing, and that's the trouble that they ran into. But at least for the moment, and we did want to update everyone on that, but Johnny Dawkins is still the head coach of UCF.
and I'm very confident that he will be.
I
think, again, just like last week, people were speculating that Kelvin Sampson was going to leave to go to Arkansas, and I said no. He was negotiating that week, and it was going to come down to if Houston would make some concessions. And what happened? Looks like they've made some concessions, and he's going to stay. So, I mean,
I think the lack of reporting from those who are really always in the know, your Jeff Goodmans, your John Rothsteins. I mean, it really tells you there's no there for Johnny Dawkins.
Especially those two are they know the Dawkins circle very well. Goodman was the one that broke the story that Dawkins got hired by UCF in the first place a few years back. And Rothstein was with Dawkins in the studio on this past Friday when Dawkins was the guest for their CBS coverage.
Yeah, true.
So can we? So last question, quick yes or no? Can we exhale a little bit here?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I can't say 100,000%.
Said that.
I will not say that he's 100,000% UCF's coach next season, but it's like 99.99999%.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, let's move on. It's all right. So we've been looking forward to getting these out here for you because it's Hall of Fame season at UCF, and we talked about the class of Hall of Famers that came out this year. I think actually probably the best Hall of Fame class in terms of recognizable names that we've ever had going into the UCF Hall of Fame. We've spoken to Alini Reyes, right, Eric Lopez? She was fantastic when she was in town with Brazil for the She Believes Cup. And we are efforting to try and get as many of the Hall of Fame class members as we possibly can. And lo and behold, we got really lucky this week, didn't we, Eric?
We did. We got the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Smith will be joining us here. We had a chance to talk to him. A very rare interview. Obviously, he's an assistant now at FAU, so it's very, They're usually not allowed to talk.
Lane Kiffin has taken a page out of Nick Saban's policies regarding assistant coaches talking to the media, which I'm sure he wrote up after Lane Kiffin was there.
Probably, but we didn't talk FAU football because, it doesn't matter. We talked about Kevin's career because it's rightfully so. It's arguably the greatest career in UCF football history. And you talk about conversations about who's the best UCF football player of all time. Kevin Smith's on that list. He's on that list, Jeffrey. And then it was kind of cool to catch up with him and talk to him about his career and how it started at UCF and the turning point in his career, and really a turning point, a moment in his career, a turning point that was a negative in his playing career that may have turned into a positive and changed his life and his direction of his life.
Right. All right. So without further ado, here he is, 24K, UCF's all-time leading rusher, Kevin Smith. All right. And here he is, the all-time great, UCF's all-time leading rusher. He ran for 2,567 yards in 2007, was a Heisman candidate, 29 touchdowns. His name is all over UCF's record book. And here he is, the one, the only, the great Kevin Smith, joining us on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. What's going on, 24K? How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Kevin. Now, how does it feel to be inducted into your UCF Athletics Hall of Fame like you will be on April 12th?
Well, it hasn't set in entirely, but it's a great feeling, obviously, and it's just I'm a representation of that university and of the being an alumni and being able to have great teammates, play for a great head coach. Obviously, it's good to represent the university and represent the teammates that I played with for 3 years.
Kevin, you're still so revered up here in Orlando. There's like a glow that comes about when people talk to you. Tell me about the first time you got a phone call from George O'Leary saying, "I want you to come to UCF."
Well, it's actually pretty funny because, I'm actually working with two coaches who were on UCF staff at the time, Lance Thompson and DJ McCarthy. And, there was a little discrepancy. I heard there were some guys that watched my film that weren't sold. So, whoever it was took my film down to Coach O'Leary, and, he kind of okayed to be able to take me at the running back position. And, I just remember actually meeting O'Leary before I talked to him. I came home from school one day, and, about 10 minutes later, he was at my front porch, and, the rest is kind of history.
Wow, that's kind of old school recruiting, right? I mean, there you are in Miami, and here comes George O'Leary saying, let me tell you about UCF, right?
Yeah, no doubt, especially because around then, I think I didn't get a cell phone until college, so I had a beeper, so I know we definitely didn't speak, but I saw him when he came to the house.
When you came to UCF in 2005, you made an immediate impact. You had 1,100 yards your first year, 9 touchdowns. You played alongside Brandon Marshall, who, along with Coach O'Leary and you, is also being inducted into the Hall of Fame. What does it mean for you to be inducted alongside those two guys?
It's a special group. Brandon Marshall was a great teammate. He's like a brother. I love him to death. And then, I have the utmost respect for Coach O'Leary. Till this day, we talk often, especially if I'm in the coaching business. He's a big mentor, and, I love Coach O'Leary. So to go in with those two guys, especially Coach O'Leary, I couldn't ask to go in with a better group of guys.
Have you reflected on your 3 years there, Kevin, and what it was like? I mean, you mentioned, Jeff mentioned that freshman year, you made an immediate impact, helped the turnaround. I mean, the team was winless in 2004, and here you turn them in 2005 to a bowl season going up to Hawaii, and then 2 years later you have that magical year over 2,000 yards, winning the first ever conference title and going to the Liberty Bowl. Have you reflected on those 3 years?
Yeah, it helps now because, I'm in the coaching business, and, I'm here to serve and inspire, and me being able to coach the same position I played, I'm able to think about it when I make a reference on pretty much how I got there for the most part, the process that it took to be able to come in and play as a freshman, to do that forget, how many yards I did, but to be able to come out and be a starter as a freshman, obviously you have to be very, very mature. So when I think about all the things I did in the past, it's only because most of the time I'm using it as a reference for the guys that I'm serving right now, which are the FAU running backs.
If you could take us back to your UCF career and you could pick out one play that you remember as well as any other play in your entire career, you carry the ball 905 times. What's the one carry that you always go back to and remember that, if I could pick out one carry from my UCF career, this is the one I would want playing on a loop?
All right, well, I got to go two. And the reason why I have to go two, because if I don't tell you the first one, you probably never hear Kevin Smith. I remember being a freshman and, being kind of buried on the depth chart. I was probably number 7th on the depth chart, and I just remember going through camp. And obviously when you're playing with, you're on the 3rd and 4th O-line, it's not as good. So the production is probably not going to be as good. And I just remember Coach O'Leary, we were in the indoor during camp, and we were running 46 power. And I remember saying, I want to see number 24 go with the ones. And I got that carry and I scored. And I started every other game in my career. So that's how I kind of get to this next play, which would be, for me, it's probably going to be the Nevada and the Hawaii Bowl. And it was my longest run at that point of my career. And the reason why, that's probably the one that sticks out, because I was never really a fast guy, but that kind of catapulted me to the understanding that I could make long runs. And, that came after my freshman year, but, there were much more to follow. So that one pretty much sticks out to me as, something I believe got me going and gave me a lot of confidence along the way.
Gosh, that's such a great answer because, I think that if you ask UCF fans, what's the one play you remember from Kevin Smith, the two that they would come up with would be the first play of the season against NC State up in Raleigh, where you went, I think, 80 yards for a touchdown on the first play. And then the long touchdown run that kind of capped off the conference championship against Tulsa as well. But, like you said, it's got to start somewhere. And those are the ones that you remember where, you proved that you could make it and make it happen. Did you, when you got to, when you think back to like 2007 and before the season happened, did you really think that, that a season like that for you was even possible? Because when I look back on it, man, you looked like, an all-star Madden player playing on like rookie mode, right? I mean, you were faster and bigger than everybody else. And to run for 2,500 yards is just incomprehensible. Did you think that was even possible at that point?
Well, for me to sit there and say that, the exact number or even have an idea of running over 2,000 yards, I didn't know what was possible. But I do know that summer and that spring, mainly the summertime, I worked hard as I could ever work. There was a defining moment in my career when I got suspended from the South Florida game for violating team rules. And that, to me, made me change my outlook and perspective on the opportunity to play this game. And I just remember working very, very hard. I wrote down my goals, that upcoming season during the off season. And I'm very close with Dr. Thad Rivers, who at that time was our equipment manager. And I remember handing him over a note card and writing down something along of like 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns. But I knew I set a personal goal because I had been working so hard, and, the rest just kind of showed what type of team I had and definitely what type of offensive line I had to be able to run for that many yards. But I knew I was going to have a good season, but I didn't know it was going to be that special. But we worked extremely hard to produce on the field.
What made that team so special? I've talked to your former teammate Kyle Israel. He jokes, he had the best seat in the house and just handing the ball off to you. But you mentioned that offensive line. That was a great offensive line. Josh Sitton was a part of that. Your receivers had a great job blocking. But talk about that team and what made it special, because Jeff brought up the NC State win, but there were still questions early in the year after the South Florida game how good that team would be, and you guys just took off after that.
I think it was the chemistry. It was the chemistry. I think it was the bond, the love we had for each other. I love Kyle Israel. So, those same sentiments he shares about me, I share the same about him. Josh and Pat Brown, Kyle Smith, we Cliff McCray. We just had a lot of chemistry. We loved each other. We worked hard. I remember my line telling me, hey, you know what, if I want them to block for me, then I'm going to have to go hang with them in some of the spots that they hang in around campus. And I was more than willing. So I think, the 10-win season and just the chemistry we had as a group, we worked so hard. Coach O'Leary pushed us past our limits and challenged us, and it made us get close. It made us separate the coaching and understand that in order for us to be successful, we are going to have to be the ones to do it. The coaches are going to guide us, but we're going to have to come together and ultimately put together wins. And I think, that was the year we did a great job of that.
Tell me about that game against Tulsa, which everybody remembers. That was the program's first ever conference championship. You just dominated that game. You were highlighted throughout the national platform. Take me through that game. What was that like to be a part of that game and that performance, and being a part of history? I mean, you always will be a part of that first ever conference championship, and it was on campus.
It was good. I mean, 2 years prior, we had an opportunity against the same team, and they beat us in Orlando. And us kind of having the same guys, and there were some guys on that team who became seniors. Our seniors did a good job of leading us, and we knew that, having another opportunity, we wanted to be locked in and focused, and it was just one of those type things. Again, we had great chemistry. For me, I was on a roll, and, I knew the role that I had on the team. It was important for me to come out and do my best and perform well and do my part as a teammate. And like you said, it was, you can never get that back. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to lead that school to their first, conference championship. And it was a good feeling. I'll never forget these memories for the rest of my life. It's the only championship I ever won in my life. So I'm going to always hold on to that one.
I would say so. Do you remember getting compared to Barry Sanders? Because that was the big talk. Because Barry Sanders, you were chasing that rushing record. Do you remember did you block that out from the media out there when you were chasing that NCAA rushing record?
No, I was very aware. I wanted the record. I was aware of the record. And truth be told, if you kind of look back, and it doesn't really work out like that, so you can't speak hypothetically, but I'm pretty sure I could have got a lot closer because after half in a certain amount of games, SMU, Memphis, I wasn't even in the game. But, approaching that record, it was important for me. It was important for the line. Obviously, the win was the one thing we were focused on, but if we can get the record, while we were getting the win, it would have been good. Obviously, we didn't get the win. We didn't get the record. So it was just, it's good to be in that type of conversation. It's good to put yourself in that type of situation and give yourself an opportunity. And, sometimes you accomplish them, sometimes you don't, but the feeling was still good, and it was special nonetheless.
We're talking with Kevin Smith, the great UCF running back here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Kevin, when you made it to the NFL, you played 5 years in Detroit. Everyone can talk about that era in Detroit and, how that set the table for where that franchise is now. But I guess my question for people who, for the mere mortals among us who, don't understand what it's like to play in the NFL, describe for us as best you can the leap from college football to the NFL and just how much of a grind it is in that league. Because I think a lot of people think, stuff translates from one thing to the other, but it's just a whole different animal in the league, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to know what you're signing up for. The one thing that, I preach to the players who are in the same position is when you get to the NFL, it's a business. The good thing is coming from UCF, playing for George O'Leary, every guy who played for George O'Leary could come back and tell you that he had you ready for the NFL. There's a method behind the way he made you come 15 minutes early to meetings. If it was a 7:30 meeting, if you arrived at 7:15, you were probably late. And those were the habits that obviously help you as a professional, learning how to come in learning how to come in early, staying late. So the transition from that aspect was pretty smooth, but from the business side and from the athletic side, it takes you some time to get adjusted to playing against 260
60-pound linebackers that can move as fast as you, if not faster. And it is a grind, and you do have to be dedicated. You have to, you have to be willing to be a learner and willing to work harder than the next man in order to be able to provide for your family. So going to the next level is a blessing. It's awesome, and me being at the university and I was at, like I said, and playing for Coach O'Leary, there were some aspects that made the transition very, very smooth.
It's pretty remarkable. And did it appreciate you even more about Brandon and the success he's had in the NFL? You play with him of the year. And just to tell the audience what a phenomenal talent he was, because even before your arrival, he was playing defensive back in 2004. He was starting at defensive back, and then he turned to receiver, and he's turned into an incredible NFL career. What was it like being around Brandon at UCF? And, I don't know if you stayed in touch with him while you guys were in the NFL, or you looked at him when he was playing in the NFL when you were in the NFL.
Yeah, Brandon sucked in college. He was a great teammate. I tell you what, so me and Joe Burnett, which is, pretty cool, we end up being whatever freshmen, conference freshmen players, first team freshmen or whatever, but we were roommates and we made a vow. So we said, okay, when we come out to workouts coming into our freshman year during the summer, we're going to try to keep up with Brandon Marshall and Mike Walker. That was our only goal. We wanted to separate ourselves from the freshman pack. And when we had to run all those sprints and do all those agility drills, Brandon Marshall, along with Mike Walker, those guys were the standard of where we wanted to get. And it paid off and allowed us to work hard enough to play as a freshman and be, impact freshmen. And just, being teammates with Brandon was awesome. I always had a real love for him as a guy, and I always knew he was super, super talented. It was important for me to see somebody that I played with go to the NFL and be able to watch Brandon. I remember watching Brandon come down on kickoff and being able to see him on Sundays when I was in the training room getting treatment. It really inspired me. And because I never once thought, I wasn't one of those kids that was like, yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to the NFL. That just wasn't my surroundings. It wasn't my circumstances. So Brandon Marshall was as big as an inspiration as anything in terms of me believing that I had what it takes to play at the next level. Because here it is, I've competed with the guy. I put up, decent numbers, and he's in the NFL. So, hey, you know what? If Brandon could play, maybe I can play at the next level. And we've been keeping in contact, ever since. And that, we're brothers. And, I've seen him last time. He's having another baby. He's had 2 kids already. When we were both in the league in 2010 when he was a Pro Bowler, I celebrated with him. So I can't wait to see B. Marshall again going to the Hall of Fame with him. But, he was a great teammate, and he'll always be a brother to me. I got a lot of respect for Brandon Marshall.
Man, it's amazing how we all grow up so fast, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's amazing, scary.
Well, let me ask you this. What really was the deciding factor in you deciding to go into coaching?
George O'Leary.
Yeah.
I never thought I was going to ever be a coach. I never wanted to, And so 2012, I say I retire, but more and more I think about it. I have to get closer to admitting that I probably just gave up, that whole grind of not being in the league and working out and hoping up a team calls you. So, I finally hung up my cleats, and, Christy Belden, who was my academic advisor at the time and was still there, she would always be on me. She's like a mother. Hey, you need to get your degree. I used to be like, yeah, okay, Christy. And then Coach O'Leary called me because I was always constantly around the program, no matter what. Bye week in the NFL, when I stopped playing, I would always, UCF is family. It's home for me. So it uplifted my spirit and made me feel good when I went back to Orlando, when I went back on campus. And I remember Coach O'Leary, telling me, hey, you need to come get your degree. And how about while you do that, you intern with football. And it pretty much, was something that happened naturally. And I believe this, and a lot of, something I want to share with whoever decides to listen is, I think I was a pretty good college player. Injuries caught up to me in the pros, and, it was great to be able to even say I made it. But I firmly believe that I played in the NFL all so I could coach football, and I'll be a lot better coach than I was a player as long as I continue to work hard. But, George O'Leary has done a lot of things for me, so I know people can understand why I love him so much. He gave me my opportunity to be a player. He helped create a standard for me that allowed me to play at the next level, and he inspired me to give back to this game what it gave to me and come back and serve young men. And, every single day I leave my family and kiss them goodbye. I love what I do for a living, so I'm truly blessed.
That's remarkable. And isn't that the impact George had? A lot of fans look at what the outside and how he deals with the media, but I've heard stories that he's helped players even, after football. And you just brought up your example, but you're not the only one, is it? That's kind of the lasting impact that George has had on that program and a lot of the players.
One of the great stand-up men of our time. All right. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody had their ways of doing things, and the perception was what people wanted it to be. But I tell you what, there are a lot of people that will let you know that George did some things for them. I know myself included that their own family wouldn't do for him. He's a very, very giving person with a big heart, and he's stern, and he's probably not for somebody who doesn't have tough skin, but when it comes to the heart, he has the biggest heart as anybody. And again, I love that man forever. I can't say too many great. I can't say, there's not an amount of words I can continue to talk about how George O'Leary impacts people, and people really understand. But he's a great dude.
I think it's so it's poetic that you and Coach O'Leary and Brandon all get voted into the UCF Hall of Fame at the same time. It's from that era of UCF football that that we look back on now. I mean, it's already 12 years gone by since then. That was the time that set UCF up for the success that it's had now. And to see, and it was so great, even for us as alumni and fans and media covering, it was so fun to see you come back and coach at UCF, and to see the success that you've had now at FAU under Coach Kiffin. It's really awesome. We're always looking to make sure that you guys are doing well, because we want you and the other guys who played with UCF to see great success. And it's been a lot of fun seeing you. Kevin Smith here with us on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Eric, you got a couple more questions for Kevin?
The only thing I'm going to say is, I think on behalf of a lot of UCF fans, and there's a lot of fans of Kevin Smith, thank you for everything you've done. And do you realize the impact you've had? Because I know a lot of people that became fans of you and became fans of UCF because of you in a lot of ways. I have a number 24 UCF jersey because I was a student when you started playing. So do you realize that impact that you've made on a lot of people here in the Central Florida area?
Well, yeah, I feel it. I feel it with the love, and here goes the deal. Like, what I did as a player, now that I'm a coach, and a lot of these kids, they don't really know. But I'm most proudly, I think, being a good person is allowed me to come back to Orlando and get complimented on, how people feel about me. That's all I really care about. When, because someone comes to my funeral, maybe someone will bring up the yards that I ran for, but I'm pretty sure they're going to share how genuine I was and how I impacted their life as a human. So, the impact that I had on UCF, I was just and still am giving back what UCF gave to me, and that's opportunity to become somebody and become something better than myself. And again, I love all UCF community. I love the people in Orlando. And again, I'm very thankful to be who I am. And if I'm an inspiration to people, I want to make sure I continue to do things the right way. But I'm grateful for every single fan. I try to do my best when I was a player. A lot of games I would stay out there 1 and 2 hours after, with lines wrapped around the stadium. And, as far as I can remember, I didn't turn down one. And I always try to show my appreciation for the people who came and supported me. So I'm thankful.
Kevin, we love you right back, man. Congratulations, and we're looking forward to seeing you in person. I think it's April 12th. Is that right? Is that the day of the induction?
April 12th in Orlando. But I got a great speech because here goes the deal, and I'm going to tell him, you got to give me my speech time because this will be the only and the last time I ever get to be inducted into something real special. So I can't wait to get with everybody and see Coach O'Leary and see Brandon and talk about memories. And, for me, it's going to be emotional, and I'll try to hold it together. But, this is almost like the final step, like almost the goodbye in a way of kind of just closing out a career and a lot of memorable moments with my coaches and my teammates.
Well, here's to that, and here's to the beginning of hopefully a very successful and lucrative and long career in coaching, man. You've been so successful, you deserve it. Here's to the best of beginnings in that too. Kevin Smith joining us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Thanks, Kevin. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all having me. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks to 24K. What a great interview. He even stayed with us afterwards and shared some stories, which we appreciate him for. And he's every bit as genuine as you think he is. And to see him succeed at FAU under Coach Kiffin, he's having a real good time down there. Is really fun to see. I mean, it seems hard to believe that he's an assistant coach in college football. Man, time flies really quick, doesn't it?
It does. It does. He's got the passion for it, and he's really invested in it. And I'm excited to see him Friday, April 12th. He's excited to be inducted. I mean, to me, I would pick him as the best football player in the program history. When you think about it, there's not a running back that's been as good as him. It's close. Whereas quarterbacks, there's been other great quarterbacks. And, I think back to that 2007 year, I feel like if we had – what do you think about this, Jeff and Murph? I want you to chime in on this.
Okay.
You were around this. Yep. Had UCF had the social media presence that they do in the present back then, and I think Kevin Smith would have had a legit shot to win the Heisman.
I think that's a good point. I mean, I think he would have been he would have been a much more fun outside candidate. He would have been higher up in the race. I don't know if he would have won it. 2007, there's actually a great series on SBNation.com in the college football section about how 2007 was just the kookiest year in the history of college football. And UCF was part of that. First 10-win season, first conference championship, Kevin Smith, and 2,500 yards for UCF. And
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, just a bizarre year that UCF was a part of.
A workhorse back, the likes of which I don't think we could ever see again in college football. He had something like
450 carries. I think that's still a record.
Carries.
I think that's still a record, a Division I record, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and that's why I kind of chuckled. Remember, Jeff, when he was talking about, I could have broken the record, but they rested me like some of these games at halftime. I'm like, I hope they did. You carried.
Yeah, they gave him the ball every single time. Like,
I remember last year I did a story for Black and Gold Banneret. I think it was like the top individual performances of all time, if you're on Black and Gold Banneret. And I reached out to a bunch of people. One of the people was Mark Daniels, obviously, who gave me quotes in the story. And I remember when I was talking to him, he talked about the fact, think about this, Kevin Smith had as many and more carries by himself that year than UCF the last 2 years have had during that year. And remember, think about how UCF last 2 years have been successful running the football, but it's by committee, basically. Through three guys get the ball. Kevin Smith by himself had more carries than all the entire UCF team combined each in 2017. I mean, that's just insane.
It's really phenomenal. And, we could debate about whether or not, did that season maybe have an effect on his professional career? Because I always come back to that saying that you always hear, which is, running backs only have so many carries left in them. Right. And I wonder if that year, may have taken away some of his, best carries from the NFL. Then again, he was in Detroit, which God bless him. He was on that.
Some would argue that would shorten your career too. I mean,
playing on a team that went winless in Detroit, that'll shorten it up. But nonetheless, it's it's great to catch up with him. Well-deserved Hall of Fame. You knew he was going to get in there. It was just a question of when, and we're really happy for Kevin. So congratulations to Kevin. Congratulations on all the inductees. And we're not done yet, right, Eric?
No, we're not done. We're actually in the process of working to hopefully have Drew Butera on, who's now, Murph, where is he? He's right now with the Colorado Rockies, just signed a deal with them, and he's kind of, you kind of explain the situation. You can explain it better than I can right now.
He's in Albuquerque right now. They're AAA affiliate, right? He signed a minor league deal. Is that it?
I believe Drew is on the move. I thought he was on the move again because I thought he had gotten traded again. Maybe he's still on the Rockies. I thought he was actually moved to like the Giants. But I did not keep track of his entire like I don't keep track of like Drew Butera's entire life.
Now you're freaking me out, man.
As much as it might seem that I am stalking Drew Butera, I don't. I swear. Of course, that's kind of what that is kind of what a stalker would say.
As of April 2nd, which is the day before we record this, Butera excited to start the season with the Isotopes, the Albuquerque Isotopes.
Yeah.
This is according to KOB4 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So Drew is currently a member of the Albuquerque Isotopes, hoping to come back up to the big club, which for him is the Colorado Rockies. Once again, and we also got Allison Kime.
That's right. We'll have her interview on in the future as well. She's getting into arguably the best two-way softball player is the best two-way softball player of all time at UCF. She'll join. We'll have an interview with her, and we'll have all that on Black and Gold Banneret. And I think you and me, Jeff, we might be doing a special Hall of Fame preview show or something like that.
I'm hoping. Yeah. Well, remember, Hall of Fame comes up on the 12th, so it should be exciting, and it'll be there'll be a lot of laughs, a lot of tears in that room, I'm sure, for the 6 inductees, including George O'Leary, Brandon Marshall, Eleni Reyes as well, who will be joining the Hall of Fame class as well. All right, we're going to take a break. Stick around. We'll be right back. We're going to catch you up on baseball and softball when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you here on our first April show. And that means if it's April, it's baseball, it's softball, and it's our chance to catch up on both those sports as well. We're first going to catch up on baseball with Brian Murphy joining us.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's shocking, isn't it?
I'm shocked.
Well, let's catch everybody up on how Loveladies guys are doing. They're 18-11, but they're off to a very rough start in the American at 1-5. They dropped 2 out of 3 over this weekend at home to UConn. One game went 11 innings that they lost 3-1, and then they got run ruled on Sunday 10-0. They did win 2-1 in a real pitcher's duel on Friday. I don't want to take that away from them against UConn's ace du jour, if you will, Mason Fioli. They went toe-to-toe with them. But really, it's really quite miraculous because this team is, well, to paraphrase Casey Stengel, and the Knights are coming off a 13-4 win at Stetson. I didn't want to, let that go by the wayside. But
right, Murph made the trip to DeLand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's DeLand, but
hey, you got to see Jacob DeGrom's new what is it, banner up there?
They now have 3 banners celebrating Jacob DeGrom in that stadium. 2 outside, 1 inside.
Got to celebrate when you can, but
yeah.
How many Klubers do they have in there? Corey Kluber, because they also have something for him, no?
Yeah, of course. They have 1 outside the stadium and 1 inside the stadium next to DeGrom's, but DeGrom now has 3, 1 inside the stadium, and then 2 outside the stadium, 1 each for his Rookie of the Year and his Cy Young.
Yeah,
wow.
And the Mets are still terrible. That's for you, Evan.
Oh, that's a bad take. I think that's a nice cold take in about 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, sure. Okay, all right. I'll run with it. To paraphrase Casey Stengel, speaking of the Mets, Can anybody pitch on this team? I mean, do they have anyone left who can pitch?
Yes, they do, Jeffrey.
Turns out.
You mentioned it. Friday night against UConn, the one game they won in that series. One of the most it's a rare sight. A baseball game that goes sub 2 hours.
Right.
1 hour and
9 minutes.
And 59 minutes. There were still hints of daylight left when we were doing the post-game interview with Lovelady after the game. And that was authored by Grant Sherman, the redshirt senior, or redshirt transfer senior, a soft tosser, but really efficient, quick outs. He and Fioli were going back and forth, just sort of like I said, a pitcher's duel in every sense of the word.
Is he gonna get mad at you if you called him a soft tosser? Like, what's that about?
He is very much a soft tosser. He relies his best pitch is a changeup. I mean, it is what he is. He threw, I think, 103 pitches. He can go up to 120, which at the college level is a ton. And then I think even in a loss on Saturday, it was important to see Chris Williams have a really good start, give up 1 run over 7 innings on Saturday in a game that UCF lost 3-1. But Chris Williams, who was the steadiest pitcher in their rotation last year, had been getting crushed in this last few weeks. He needed a good start, and his early season caused him to lose that Friday spot. He came back from an early suspension and was inserted as the Friday starter because he had really earned that coming into the year. And they moved him back to Saturday because Lovelady said he just wasn't doing a good enough job. And it's true. He'd given up, I think, 16 earned runs in 14 innings before Saturday. And then he really went out there, did well, just did not get enough support from his offense. And then Sunday, UCF gets 10-run ruled for the first time since 2015. And I think more frustrating is the fact that UCF, now dating back to the start of the 2017 season, is 3-6 on Sunday rubber match games. These are your games in which you need to win the series, and UCF is 3-6, and it happened again. And as long as we're paraphrasing old-timey Yankees, to paraphrase or to directly quote Yogi Berra, or not really to paraphrase, it's getting late early out there for UCF because they are. They're 1-5 in the conference. They're 5 fullback of East Carolina, whom is 6-0 and whom they got swept by a couple weekends ago. They do have a chance to get healthy a little bit against the South Florida team that is not the South Florida team that was as good as last year. That this team does not have, Shane McClanahan on its team this year. But with UCF, it's really hard to know what to expect because they can look great. They can look great as they did on Friday, and then they can get 10-run ruled less than 48 hours later. It's really, I just don't know what to expect from this team. And really any conference series.
And yet, I'm checking the RPI.
Oh, boy.
And there they are at 39th.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, right?
It's a steep drop from where they were, obviously. Like less than 2 weeks ago, they were 18, if I'm correct.
Right.
Yes. When they dropped, obviously, when they got swept at East Carolina, yes.
That's still not bad. That's still not bad territory.
No, I mean, and by the way, they have good resume wins. They have the Florida win, they have an Auburn win. But here's my question to you, Murph, on this, because I kind of felt like this. I felt they had to have any chance of winning the UConn series with the Holloway injury. And I know you don't have. I doubt you have an update on that. I don't know if he'll be even available this weekend or not. But I feel like with their injuries they've had to their pitching staff as a whole, I almost feel like they almost have to try to win a series. They have to win the first 2 games. I feel as the series goes long, and having an extra inning game on that Saturday didn't help to some extent. I just felt that, boy, they just really going to be thin the rest of the way here in these series as the series develops here. They can't. I mean, they got to benefit from that Friday night game where they didn't have to use a lot of arms. But that's my concern is in a 3-game series, do they just get worn down? That pitching staff gets worn down by Sundays.
Kind of, but that wasn't really the case coming. I understand your point of they were thin in the bullpen, and it hurts even more when guys who are healthy that were dependable, guys like Garrett Westberg, who really was a big bridge for this team. He was really a closer for a lot of last year, and then this year was a really important piece in the 7th and 8th innings. He has really struggled in the last a few weeks. So they're down a lot of arms, and then the arms they do have in the bullpen, some of them right now are just not right. So they really don't have a lot to fall back on. But after what Sherman and Williams gave them against the Huskies, they pretty much, kind of close. They kind of had close to a full boat going into Sunday. But it just fell apart quickly, and it was frankly embarrassing. It is embarrassing to get mercy ruled on your home field. I think we can all say that. I don't know. And unfortunately, I don't know what this team can do to really, they have to. It's like they have to win 2 out of 3 against USF. If they don't do that, then I think we can say, well, I mean, this team probably is not going to make a tournament. No, I really believe that. Like, if they fall to like 2-7 in the conference after facing the top 2 teams and then USF at home, they have a ton of road series coming up, obviously. And I just, they're not getting anything out of the bottom of their lineup. And Matthew Micah and Tyler Osick and Ray Alejo, and at some points Dallas Beaver, they've been really good consistently 1 through 4, but their bottom of the lineup isn't doing much 5 through 9. Their bullpen is just banged up and struggling. And then, like you said, like Sunday's kind of a Johnny Holstaff type of day because they have Holloway injured. I will ask Lovelady tomorrow when I meet with him about Holloway. He told us last week that he might be able to come back this week, so we'll see if that's true. But Tyler Osick said before the UConn series that they need to win 2 out of 3, or they're not going to be an at-large in the tournament. I thought that was kind of a rash statement, but just the way they played and the way that series ended, it gives you not much confidence heading into this series against a very average at best South Florida team. If they lose 2 out of 3 again at home, Jeffrey can slam his panic button because I know he wants to.
Well, let me ask you this, Murph. Let me ask you this real quick, because the thing that's kind of confusing to me, Murph, is this offense. Like, they have games where they just explode, like they did against Stetson, and they hit the ball well against East Carolina. And Coach Lovelady even mentioned this to you, I think, in the post game on Sunday. They got 6 hits off Frioli, who's the ace for UConn, is a Pitcher of the Year candidate in the American. And then, yet on Saturday and Sunday combined, the offense only had 6 hits. Like how do you explain the ups and downs of this offense?
Well, it's not good when, again, those 4 guys I mentioned, Micah, Osick, Alejo, and Beaver, they were 5 for 40 in that series. Yeah. And so those guys are going to go into slumps because slumps happen. But it's not good because really they're not getting anything out of the bottom of the lineup. So when you combine both of those things, voila, you really are pretty toothless at the plate. They need guys like, Dalton Wingo and Brandon Hernandez, and, Chandler Robertson's been pretty good as far as, making contact, getting on base, out of the 9 hole, but they really need more. They just need more because it's really been the top 4 guys that have been carrying them offensively. They need a full attack. And, Anthony George needs to be better. He's healthy and he's really struggling. And, so that's what that's what really needs to be watched is what do they get out of 5 through 9? And if they're going to continue to struggle, do guys like Matthew Micah get pitched around? And, and then there's just so much of a burden that's put on them when they're not getting much production out of the 5 through 9 guys. And obviously they're not going to hit. Last week they didn't hit. And thus UCF, basically gets 1 run through, the last 2 games of the series.
Well, here's one thing about this series coming up because they're playing USF this weekend that I think is interesting. That I did want to ask you first. Well, first of all, what's at stake? UCF can actually clinch the All Sports War on I-4 trophy if they win 2 games in this series. I think they need 3 points to clinch, and each game this weekend is worth 2 points in the All Sports Trophy series. So there's that. First of all, so obviously that's extremely important. But to use a wrestling term that I was trying to give you guys earlier, with USF and UCF both mired at 1-5 in the conference, they're the bottom 2 teams in the league right now.
Wow! I can't believe. By the way,
can you believe that? Right?
That's an amazing statement to say. That is just say that again, because that is. Who would have thought that?
No, I don't want to. Sam's gonna get mad at me. But Murph, loser leaves town match.
Loser leaves town.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. By the way, both these teams have been swept by ECU. So if you're looking for ECU's 6 wins, they reside between both. They reside between.
They're
both
really good, by the way. Let's just throw that out there. They're really good.
Breaking news.
Yeah,
ECU's good at baseball.
Murph, is Brickhouse ever going to graduate? I feel like he's been there a decade.
I agree.
Just throwing that out.
I agree with this. It seems like he's been there since I was a college student. I don't know. Maybe he's going to find the Michael Colubiali fountain of youth and fountain of NCAA compliance 6th and 7th years.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean ECU's fantastic. We're not trying to slight them at all. They're clearly the best team in this conference. I don't know if it's close. I don't know if it's close. It's like Connecticut might be the number two team in this conference. They got beat by Fairfield, I believe, last night. So just saying. It was really weird too. Like kind of weird. Again, baseball's weird, but UCF is 8-0 in the midweek games. You got about Florida, VCU, and Florida State. They beat Stetson last night in a torturous 4-hour game up in DeLand.
Well, they made up for it from the game before, the 1 hour 59 game. He had to get you back for that one.
There are really good baseball games that run long. I enjoy long baseball games, 3 hours plus. This game was 3 hours, 56 minutes of sitting around and watching guys walk to first base. It was really difficult.
Did you ever do I was texting Murph, I was tweeting Murph, we were debating, I was trying to start a conversation in that press box, Kluber, DeGrom, who do you take in a 1-game deal if you're a Hatter? Who do you do?
No one took the bait.
I didn't ask anybody because I was trying to watch the game. But I understand at some point I understand why Eric asked it, because do you really want to continue to watch this game? Because
it was 11-0 when I asked you. I had it on ESPN Plus, and it was 11-0. What else is there to watch?
It was nice. Look, it's nice for UCF to get a win. It was really cool for Ben McCabe to get his first collegiate home run. The freshman catcher. It was really
Let me ask you about him. Do you buy? There are people in the message boards. Some people are suggesting he should get an opportunity to play more. You buying into that?
They will take anything.
They will, yeah.
If somebody's going to hit from the bottom of the lineup, Anthony George, missed a couple of weeks with an injury, but he's been really slow behind coming back 13 games in, hitting sub 200. So, if Ben McCabe's going to drive the ball in the gap, yeah, sure, they'll play him. Are you going to hit out of the 7th and 8th spots? Sure, you're getting in the lineup. But again, there was a point in this game last night in which 10 runs were scored on the backs of 2 hits. 2 hits led to 10 runs. It was awful.
That's great.
But we're undefeated in midweek, so what you're saying is we have to avoid playing on the weekend.
Right.
Need to treat every game like it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday. Okay, there you go.
Just adjust your watches or something. All right,
it's kind of like what Josh Heupel did, right? Where a Wednesday was really a Monday and all that, depending on the game of the week when the game played, right? Yeah. Maybe Sunday should be a Tuesday.
Oh, there you go, boy. I haven't heard them say 1-0 yet, though. We've avoided that pitfall.
Yeah. I'll give them some time. So South Florida coming up this week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6, 6, and 1.
It's Tuesday.
Right. Well, and then the actual Tuesday, they're at Jacksonville. So those are your 4 games coming up this week. All right. Switching gears, I want to go over to softball, Eric Lopez, because UCF is off to a very good start. 6-0 in the conference, 27-9 overall. And they won tonight, actually, against Jacksonville at home, 3-2. So in walk-off fashion, Elo. So you got yourself a little walk-off action tonight, and UCF is now they have a 750 win percentage through the first 2/3 of the season. And you told me this earlier, and it bears repeating for those listening. When was the last time UCF had a 750 win percentage?
That was 2015, the magical year where they went 50-9 with 2 All-American pitchers.
Pretty good. So, this team is hot right now. What are you thinking about this right now? Are you expecting it to continue?
I think they're in a really good spot, and yet I think they can get better. I think offensively they're still I think Coach Ball, even in that JU would man, I wish we should have gotten some more runs, get some more hits.
and help our pitching. The pitching's great. Aaliyah White right now is just locked in. She's locked in right now. She got a win tonight.
She's so fun to watch right now, man. She
got the win.
She's got the thing. She's got the thing that we saw from Allie and Shelby and Mackenzie and Dottie before them, and it's fun to watch right now.
She's got the win in relief on Wednesday night against JU. She got all 3 wins against ECU in Greenville. She's up to 62 career wins now, tied for 4th all time with Ashley Cole. Allison Kime, as you mentioned, going into the Hall of Fame, 71 wins. That's the record for most wins by a UCF pitcher in 3 years. Aaliyah's in her 3rd year. She's already got 62. Allison's got 71. Mackenzie Otis is 2nd at 78. Shelby Turnier at 80. Aaliyah, by the way, 19 wins, tied for 4th in the country in wins with players like Kelly Barnhill of Florida, who's a former Player of the Year, Megan King. So she's just playing at a very high level right now, pitching. But I think offensively they feel they can do some more things. And, Savannah Jalila got to start on Wednesday night. And here's a cool story about it. Murph can help me out with this because, Murph, you covered the JU UCF baseball series earlier this year, I believe, right? You were there when the JU. And so Savannah, no?
I don't think I was. I think I was out of town covering basketball.
Oh, that's right. You were the Houston game. Okay, so
I was too busy. I was too busy watching UCF basketball clinch arguably the best win in their program history before the VC.
How dare you not cover baseball?
I know.
What are you doing? But you could probably help me out anyway because you covered. I know you wrote about that series, a preview, I recall.
Mm-hmm.
Because Savannah Jalila, older brother, is actually one of the better hitters on the Jacksonville team. Who's I think hit 2nd on the team in the lineup there for JU. So in fact,
Dakota.
Yeah. Thank you. See, I knew you would know this. That's why you're the guy. You're the baseball guy. That's why you do it. So Savannah obviously sparked them with she got the game-winning hit run tonight when they got on base a couple times. And the reason I bring her up is, that's one of the things Sydney Ball likes. She likes to use her bench and have multiple options off the bench and give certain players a day off here, kind of like a baseball team and a roster. So that's the big thing that's helped this team is they've got depth and they have options here. They can try to press different buttons to get wins, and that's why they're in a roll.
That's good stuff to see because, right now UCF is 6-0, only undefeated team in the American. Tulsa's 5-1, a game behind them. South Florida at 4-2. Then you got a group of 4 teams at 2-4, including their opponent this coming weekend in Wichita State. The Shockers are 21-16, however. Real quick preview of the Shockers. What are you expecting from them?
Well, Wichita State's a very dynamic offense. They are without their best player, Bailey Lang, who's a lefty pitcher who can hit. She's out for the year with an ankle injury. So this is a big stretch for UCF because you've got Wichita State here and then USF, a big series the following weekend. And then they go to Tulsa. Right now, the top 3 teams in the America is UCF, USF, and Tulsa. So I think this is a huge stretch that I think will help define the UCF season in 2019. But it's got to start with Wichita, a team that basically cost UCF the regular season title last year by sweeping them in Wichita with 2 walk-off wins and 2 wild games.
Yeah. Jack Straw from Wichita cut his buddy down. All right, so we'll be keeping an eye on that one with Wichita State coming Friday at 6, Saturday at 2, Sunday at noon, and I think the weather should be okay. So I don't know if they're going to be moving those games around at all, but keep an eye on UCF softball for
it'll be better weather than they were in Wichita last year. I'll tell you that.
True. And 27-9. I mean, the UCF could get to 30 wins this weekend already, which is a big milestone. What a job they've done under Coach Ball Malone in her first year at UCF. A fantastic job indeed. All right, stick around. We'll come back. We have a bunch more to talk about. To kind of hit up a little bit, a little women's basketball wrap. We'll talk about the Orlando Apollos wrapping up and the both the tennis teams as they're wrapping up their season here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Stick around, back after this. And we're back here at the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you. blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF Banneret, UCF_Banneret on Twitter. Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. We owe an apology, by the way, to Coach Abe and the UCF women's basketball team, who finished up their season at 26-7, 13-3 in the American. And the reason why we owe them an apology is because we had last week's show was so stacked with the men's basketball game, the Duke stuff and all, and then the Johnny Dawkins stuff that we hardly even mention them. Now, I wonder if Coach A would be like, well, really, that's okay, because they lost their first round game to Arizona State down in Miami. The final score was 60-45. Arizona State just kind of jumped on UCF from the very beginning and did not let up. That's a good team, Arizona State.
Got to the Sweet 16.
They got to the Sweet 16. Yeah, they came out of that regional. Knights kept it tight with the defense, but it was really in the first quarter. But it was really just that they knew what to do. They tried to key on KK Wright. She finished 8 of 19, 18 points to lead all scorers. Or not to lead all scorers, but to lead UCF. But it was Courtney Eckmark who led all scorers for Arizona State. She hit 4 threes. She had 20 points and 7 rebounds in the game. They had they got a 12-point, 10 rebound performance from Kiana Ibis. Arizona State did, and when you got somebody named Ibis and you're playing down in Coral Gables on the campus of the University of Miami, you know something's fishy. So yeah, that's how the UCF season ends. And it's sad because, we're not going to see a bunch of seniors. This team is going to look very, very different next year, Eric Lopez. I know we watched the game, but Arizona State was just a better team. And I think, do you think that it was nerves, or was it just Arizona State's just better?
They're taller. And that's kind of a problem. They're taller. They dominated the boards, and they were big. And I think that created some issues for UCF. By the way, the apology should be the NCAA owes women's basketball apology. Move the tournament either before or after the men's tournament. By going head-to-head with the men, you're going to get lost in the shuffle across the board. So that's
lo and behold, they played their game at what was it, 7:00 on Friday,
Right.
And then that was on ESPN2. And watch ESPN. And then the men's game was against VCU in the first round was right after that. So, I mean, it worked out for all of us. We got a nice.
Well, I disagree. Well, it worked out the viewers, the television numbers disagree because nobody watched that game according to the numbers. But I disagree because, like, Danny White wanted to be at both events. He wanted to be at both games, and he couldn't because they were literally on the same day in different cities. I mean, if they would push the tournament a couple weeks earlier or later, like softball, they start the tournament way earlier than baseball does. So there's a gap. And I think it's the same way in soccer. And I think that's the biggest problem with women's basketball. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's disappointing because I had a jet plane ready to go because we were going to fly Murph out to cover the women's game and the men's back and forth. But obviously we couldn't do it. So
we had the SB Nation Gulfstream ready to go. Is that what
I could have used the jet. I could have used the jet plane to fly to South Carolina. I mean, nobody told me about this.
We just figure you like driving. I mean,
oh man,
I know. I did want to point out. Oh, go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
But I do want to say about the team. They got dominated in the boards. I do think there were some nerves early, but I think the board for Arizona State was just bigger and taller, and that created some difficulties there. And UCF couldn't make shots because I think length was an issue. And look, we've brought this up all year. And who was going to be the second scorer opposite of KK Wright? And they didn't have one that night.
Yeah, Kayla Thigpen, who usually is the one who fills that role, was 2 of 8. They did a good job on her. Masnikava had a pretty good game, 3 of 6 from the field, but UCF finishes the season in the first round of the NCAA. Here's the part that worries me, and we'll go over this just real quick, Eric. So UCF now loses 7 seniors, and Tolu Omakore is listed as a junior, but she said that she's hanging it up at the end of this season. 7 seniors: Nye Schuler, Sadie McDonald, Kayla Thigpen, Shamisha Paul, Tolu Omakore, L'Oreal Wilson, and Fifi Andor. These players combined for 59% of the total minutes, 49% of the total scoring, 54% of UCF's total rebounding this year, and 63.5% of their blocks on the interior, and 60.6% of their steals. That's a lot of production that they're going to have to replace. And we've talked to people within UCF women's basketball, and they're like, this team's going to look a lot different next year because we got a lot of stuff to fix. Is it fixable? Well, let's hope.
Yeah, it's fixed. Yeah, I think so. It's fixable. I mean, you've been talking about it.
Pains, I think, though. That's the thing with the freshmen coming in, and they do get Jalen Williams also, who's a transfer from Penn State as one of their bigs coming in to replace Fifi Indoor. But still, that's a lot to replace.
Right, but you gotta give. It's funny how fans are. Like, in the last week or two, everybody's been talking about, oh my God, what's going to happen with men's basketball recruiting? What's going to happen with recruiting? Like, can we let the coaches bring in their players and see what happens first, and before making judgments? Like, oh my God, what's going to, she's going to bring in players that she's recruited, and I think her system, I think it will succeed with a lot of players. They're going to be young, you're right, but maybe Jeff, they might bring in some players that could help in the scoring front, for example. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to be good. They've been good defensively every year, and I don't expect that necessarily to change. But yeah, they're going to be a little younger, but you also got some players you can build around with KK Wright. I like Kaba a lot, McDonald and somebody. So they've got pieces coming back to work around it. It's just going to be interesting to see who they bring in and how they blend in. And remember, this team, nobody had expectations on this team prior to this year. They were thinking about fourth place in the conference. So, we just got to give the coaching staff, I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt.
Kaba's back. Obviously, KK Wright's back. Diamond Battles and Brittany Smith came. Brittany Smith really showed something this year as a big. And then, of course, they add another big in Jalen Williams, who I mentioned before, transfers over from Penn State for 1 year. But, not to mention the freshmen that they're going to have to bring in. There's just a lot of production they're going to have to replace, but that's where these coaches earn their money. And what Coach Abe has done in these 3 years, 3 20-win seasons, getting to the NCAA tournament for the first time, the first ever at-large bid in school history, just like the men. Big ups to this group, big ups to Coach Abe, and a job well done this year for women's basketball. All right, I want to check in with tennis real quick. We got women's tennis. They're 18-2, 5-0 in conference. It doesn't really matter until you get to the conference tournament. But you want to talk about the team that's the hottest team on campus. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 wins in a row. They haven't lost since January. And they've got number 12 Oklahoma State coming up on Friday. They are at Stillwater for this match. That's a big dual match for them before they come back and finish the regular season on Saturday, April 13th against South Florida. So that's the women's tennis update for you. Men's tennis looks like this. They're obviously still scuffling through at 11-9, but they did knock off FAU 7-0 in their most recent dual match, and they have 2 matches left to go. They are at South Florida Sunday, April 14th, so they got 2 weeks off, and Memphis on Monday, April 15th at home to finish out the season at 6 p.m. before the American Athletic Conference Championships, which take place coinciding with each other this year at the Collegiate Tennis Center at the USTA National Complex. Men's tennis starts on the 18th, and women's tennis also goes through the 18th through the 22nd. I think the men, they start on the 18th and they go through the 20, or they finish on the 21st. I think that's Sunday, Easter Sunday. So, and that'll be fun. You get sort of a double dip of tennis at the USTA Tennis Complex. So best of luck to them as they roll forward. All right. Last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here. And this week, as you guys know by now, the Alliance of American Football announced that they were shutting down operations after 8 weeks of play. The Orlando Apollos and their 5 UCF players on their roster had the league's best record at 7-1, and they had 2 regular season games at Spectrum Stadium left to go, plus another playoff game. They had clinched a playoff game they were going to play against Birmingham. And the season comes to an end, and it's really sad. It's sad for the 5 UCF players on the Apollos, and also Justin Holman, who is on the Atlanta Legends. And also they lost, and also all the staff, a lot of them with UCF ties as well. From our buddy Tom Alexander, who is a guest on the show, to a couple other folks as well. So I guess my question is, all the things about how the AAF went down aside, can pro football outside the NFL that is not backed by the NFL work at all?
Sure, the Predators worked.
Is it? I mean, are we counting arena football on this? I mean, because how valuable is
pro
arena
football?
okay, but how valuable is arena football in helping develop talent? Because that was one of the goals, and of the AAF, and in addition to that, that's why these players, guys like Rennell Hall and Jordan McRae and Aaron Evans and Chris Martin, that's why they were in the AAF, is because it was their last best opportunity, and to see it go like that, I mean, are they going to get that same chance with the Orlando Predators?
I understand. I understand that this is not great and it's been handled poorly by the league executives and the chairman of the league, or whatever he wants to call himself.
The principal investor, Tom Dundon.
It's awful. It's not how you treat people, period. But I am only saying that I'm sure it can work without the NFL's backing. But I just know your argument to this, Jeffrey, because we talked about it off air before the show, and I want to say beforehand I am completely against what you are about to surmise about Orlando pro football.
Well, I got an article coming about. I think Orlando pro football is cursed. Outdoor pro football is cursed.
That is so ridiculous. It makes my head.
I'll explain why. I shall explain myself. Here in Orlando, we have had 6 different professional outdoor football franchises. All right, since 1974. Of the 6, they played a total of 8 seasons. Here's where it gets to the cursing. Okay, I couldn't believe this.
I'm cursing at your argument.
Okay. Of those 8 seasons, whichever Orlando team we're talking about, whether it's the Thunder, the Renegades, the Florida Blazers, the Orlando Rays, the Florida Tuskers, 6 times the team in question finished at least tied for first in their respective leagues, divisions, conferences, whatever. Made the playoffs 6 times. All 6 times in 4 of the 6 times, they lost in the championship game by 4 points or less. The only other times that they didn't lose in the championship game, the Orlando Rays lost in the semifinals by 1 point of the XFL. The Apollos obviously didn't finish the season. And we had 2 teams that missed the playoffs entirely, the Orlando Renegades in the USFL, and then the first year of the Orlando Thunder in the World League under Don Matthews. Coincidentally, Eric Lopez, those were the only 2 Orlando professional football teams with which Lee Corso was involved.
There you go.
So I don't know if we can call.
Well, the Tuskers got to the championship game, right?
They got to the championship game twice, lost in overtime once, and lost on a blocked field goal the second time.
Yep. Yes, they did.
So
I would know. I was part of that.
And
it actually contributed on their game day of activities.
So I guess what do we call it? We call this the Corso curse?
They're not cursed. I mean, here's the reality of this. And again, you and I have been on complete opposite sides on this. I don't think anybody wants more football. I don't. Nobody wants more outdoor football, and they certainly don't want football people want NFL quality football, and they don't need a fight. Here's the thing. The NFL, I would argue that even if the NFL backed it, it wouldn't succeed. There's this thing called NFL Europe that the NFL backed that didn't work out either.
Oh, no, I would disagree with that because
is it still around?
That worked for 12 years.
It's not around anymore, is it?
It's not around, not because it wasn't a success. It's not around because of the economic collapse in 2007 and 2008.
No, but that's the thing. See, here's the thing. That's the point. A lot of things have to go right for a league to work, period. Forget football. Just a league, period. A lot of things. Investors actually have to be guys that you could believe in and not be crooks, which is what I think happened here. You have to have somebody that is competent. It's easy to say, oh, we're okay losing money the first 3 years. No. You're going to lose money. Are you going to stick with it? You got to have the right TV deal. You got to have a lot of things go right. Now, Orlando has been successful in supporting these teams because I think Orlando has good sports fans. But
I don't think there's a market for football. Not anymore. Look, the Alliance ratings were dropping week by week. They were down 30 to 35% every week. They were down to about 200,000 viewers by the last week. There was no buzz. And the reason there's no star players. There's no players. You can only sell your coaches so much. And that's the problem with these leagues. They don't have the best players at the end of the day, and you can't trick the fan base, and you can't trick the consumers into that. It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way. There's nothing wrong with it. The MLS has the same problem. The MLS is not going to be bigger because a soccer fan knows that's not the best league in the world. They're not. They're not close to an English Premier League, and that's the issue that football in the spring has.
But what about the angle of the NFL, which they've got on the record several times. They say, "Look, we need a developmental league. We really don't care about."
They don't believe a word. Don't buy it.
No.
They have one. They have one. It's called college football. They don't have to pay a cent.
Okay, that's where they farm talent from. But if you're talking about guys that you need to develop that are out of college, right?
Yeah.
Those guys need a place. Those guys need a place to develop, don't they?
Yeah. It's called OTAs. It's called OTAs and training camp. That's what they do.
It's not the same as game action. You know that.
But here's the problem. That's the point is that the NFL will never, no team will ever allow players to play in another league over an OTA or not with the risk of injuries. Absolutely not. It will never happen. That's the point. That's what was so hilarious about this. Like, no, the NFL the players were never going to sign off. Yeah, sure, we're going to play in this league. No, because those bodies, as crazy as it sounds, and as much as we'll mock the fact how pointless OTAs are and training camps are, these coaches want every player there, even if it's, quote, voluntary.
By the way, and I would make a point with the OTAs is that with the latest collective bargaining agreement, like there's a lot less of that now. So there's a lot fewer opportunities for these guys to develop. And that's why the NFL is kind of jumping on board. And I'll guarantee you with the next CBA, there's probably going to be even fewer practices like that.
Yeah, but you still are there learning the playbook and learning the deal. You're not going to just this is not baseball where you could just farm out a guy to AA. It's just never going to happen. It's just not. The NBA is trying to do that with the G League. And, it's not going to work for marquee players. You might get like a 12th man that, here and there can hop in back and forth. But no, it's not going to happen. It's never going to.
But that's what I'm saying. Isn't that the point?
What?
That's where you get those fill-in guys from. And maybe the occasional guy turns into, a decent contributor, a starter, whatever. But it's those guys in that tail end of the bell curve.
You might get a player or two, but it's not worth spending millions of dollars for it. It's not. It's not. The NFL.
I'll give you a good example. All right, and this will be our last thing. You guys know I'm a New York Giants fan. All right. I'm also a Miami Dolphins fan. They're my number 2 team, clearly. All right. Let's say the draft kind of goes sideways, and neither of these teams get the quarterback that they're kind of looking for in the draft. Wouldn't they be in the market for a guy like, say, Garrett Gilbert of the Orlando Apollo? Why not?
No, because they already have their quarterbacks. The Dolphins signed their quarterback. They're going to tank. That's the point. That's the point. If you don't have a quarterback, you just tank and try to get one in the draft. That's the whole point. You're not just going to go get somebody.
But that's bad for business, isn't it? If you're just openly saying, hey, everyone, let's get excited for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, that's what's going to happen this year. I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, we're ready.
If I'm a Dolphins fan, I would buy into this guy who was lighting up this other league.
No, I wouldn't.
Than tired Fitzmagic that disappears after week 6. Come on.
But that's the point. See, the Dolphin fan doesn't want to win. They're tired of 8-8 and 6-10. We want a tank. We want Tua. That's the point. We do not. So we want the worst quarterback possible. It's not going to happen. I mean, by the way, here's the problem. It's
not going to happen. It's Tua to the Dolphins. You can mark that down right now.
Well, here's the problem. You're not going to like this comment, but it's reality. Garrett Gilbert, at best, is a third-string quarterback in the NFL.
I disagree.
If he was an NFL quarterback, he wouldn't be in the Alliance.
That's not true. Okay. Aaron Murray was an NFL quarterback in the NFL. Josh Johnson, by the way, was the number 1 pick in their quarterback draft, and got pulled back from the AAF into the NFL at the end of the season and ended up starting several games for the Washington Redskins. So that disproves your point right there.
Well, the Redskins are not a real NFL franchise, so that doesn't count.
Of course.
These are not impact, but here's the point. The bottom line is,
you would say that when you're wrong is you'd say something stupid like that.
We can go back and forth on this, but there's no impact players. They're going to come from this league. And as a result, there's not. Let me know when they come, because it's not going to happen, and it's never going to work. Except I do think the XFL will last just because Vince is stubborn enough to lose money and can try to force this for a couple years. But that won't work either. So it's not like I'm picking on one or the other. I was a part of the UFL, the league that the Tuskers were in. I actually helped out on game days with spotting for the Interno PA guy with Jay Gruden as a head coach. And that was, in fact, I will tell you that the UFL was a much better product than the Alliance. They actually had offense in that league, and that didn't work. So if that didn't work,
the AAF had offense.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it
nobody
did.
scored. Nobody scored outside of Orlando.
No, that's false. That's completely false.
Oh, you're just an apologist for the league.
I'm not an apologist. I actually did the math. The games were more entertaining. The games are statistically actually more entertaining than the NFL by average because there were 63% of the AAF's games after week 1 when they worked out the kinks. 63% of their games were decided by one score or less. You know how many were decided in the NFL in 2018?
No.
Do you know how many? Do you know how many?
Points.
No, answer my question. Answer my question. Do you know how
many points did they score?
Answer my question.
Because you
know how many?
63. No,
don't change the subject. Answer my question.
7 to 6 games are not exciting.
They weren't 7 to 6 games. They didn't have 7 to 6 games. No game had 7 to 6.
Who's the most recognizable player in the league?
Garrett Gilbert.
No, it isn't. Johnny Manziel.
No. Johnny Manziel played like 4 snaps. He wasn't the most recognizable player in the league. I'd say Trent Richardson.
I think it's Johnny. If you ask the casual person, it's Johnny Manziel.
and look how that ends up. He's a failure. No NFL team was going to bring him in. He's a desperation play at best. By the way, it's 53% of NFL games are decided by one score. 53.
Yeah,
so.
They play a longer. Well, maybe if the Alliance would have finished their season, we would have found out.
Yeah, but fair. But they didn't because of vulture capitalism. That's why.
Bad investors. You need good investing.
Well, I don't think you know anything about investing, but the bottom line is the league was sold off for parts by a vulture capitalist, and
everybody warned this. Everybody knew this was coming after week 2, and they try to spin it.
That's not true. That's not true. That's also not true because if you've been reading Ben Kercheval on CBS Sports, that's not how it went down. Now, the league suffered from a lot of negative publicity because of a couple of things going back and forth that seemed to coincide with one another, but that's not how it went.
Rushed the league. He should have waited another year or two and make sure you have solid fundings. But he wanted to get a head start on Vince in the XFL because he stole his idea from Vince when they did that documentary because he's trying to live up to his father's legacy. So Charlie actually screwed this up. They all are failure. They are terrible people. I have no sympathy for them. And it's unfortunate that innocent people are victims of this, that lost jobs because of greedy people like Charlie Ebersol and your boy from the Carolina Hurricanes.
Well, he's not my boy. He's. I hope for the record, and this is a good spot to end it. I hope for the record, on behalf of all of the people that we know that worked with the AAF, the players, the staff, the coaches, the assistant coaches, that the Carolina Hurricanes never win another hockey game in their life, ever again.
So let me ask you. Real quick question: would you support the idea and I like this, that Vince buys the Orlando team, names them the Apollos, and joins the XFL?
He can't buy a team. It's essential. No, because it's not a franchise like the NFL. You can't buy a team. You can only the AAF is a central entity. It's a single entity corporate structure.
But what I'm saying is, you could put a franchise. Vince could put a team in Orlando. And if they decide they can name it the Apollos, play for the trademarks, or they can rename it the Rage, whatever. Would you support it?
Yeah, because it's in Orlando, but I dislike Vince McMahon tremendously. I would not support it as much as probably I did the AAF team. It depends. It would depend on, how many UCF guys are on there. If there are UCF guys on there. I don't know. I think I, like you, think that any league that's, well, not quite like you. I think that any league that's not backed by the NFL is doomed to failure, largely because of economics, and not talking about fan support and media structure, but because of insurance costs. Insurance is extremely hard to come by. That's the one thing that the AAF really had a lot of trouble with, was insurance costs. And that's only going to get more difficult as we learn more about post-concussion syndrome and all that. So I think Vince has an uphill battle. To be honest with you, I'll still be surprised if that league takes one snap in 2020. I'll still be shocked.
Well, they're going to take a snap. How many more snaps after that? Who knows? And trust me, and Murph can back me on this, if the XFL is like the road to WrestleMania this year, it'll be a colossal, terrible product, because this WrestleMania is going to suck, Murph.
Guys, here's the real problem. The Red Sox pitching is not very good. They're losing again to the A's.
This is not
Nathan Eovaldi is getting hit around again.
Do the A's have any healthy bodies left?
Do the Red Sox or the A's?
The Yankees.
The Yankees.
Can anyone play this game?
No, because they lost Troy Tulowitzki today. So if you want to go play shortstop for the New York Yankees, write the address to New York Yankees.
Can Jeter still play?
No, probably not. But on a serious note, I want to say one thing about whatever it is that you guys spoke about for about 30 minutes right there. I just want to say one thing, and I believe this. Okay. I believe this in my heart. Garrett Gilbert is not an NFL quarterback. Please don't. Please stop.
Thank you, Murph.
That's it.
Murph, are you the WrestleMania card's terrible?
It's, you know what? The WrestleMania card has no juice. Like what do we? Okay, we've built up the Becky, Charlotte, Ronda Rousey match really well. What other match on this card has been built up at all? None. Nothing.
See, folks listening at home, Murph is now getting me back for this AAF talk right now, as you're hearing right now. I will say this about wrestling. You know who followed me on Twitter today? Cal Bloom.
Yeah, he followed me too. So
former UCF player who's at the WWE Performance Center. Cal, you are officially, I'm declaring this right now, you are officially the favorite pro wrestler of the Black and Gold Banneret podcast.
Jeffrey, we've been trying to get you into wrestling. I know you're not going to watch WrestleMania this Sunday.
I'm pro wrestling curious, and
you really just watch. Like Eric, I think you agree with me. If Jeff got to see like one Ricochet match, I think that would be a good starter for Jeffrey.
I think we got to start him with. The question is, when is he going to go to Full Sail to watch NXT? Because that's where Bloom will probably start off.
Yeah, I want to say, Cal. Listen, Cal, if you're listening, you got to tell me when you're on Twitter when you're going to be up there, okay? Because I will show up. All right.
All right. Good.
I will be one of Bloom's bandits or whatever it is that you want to say it is. I'm there. I will be fully clothed, but I'll be there. All right. And I'll bring Murph and I'll bring Lopez, and it'll be a good. Maybe we'll bring Lovelady too.
Oh, he'd love it. I can't wait to see, because Greg Lovelady wears a wrestling T-shirt to the park for every Sunday home game. So I think I'll wait until Sunday to ask. But I do wonder what T-shirt of the literally, Eric, dozens of T-shirts that he has.
Yeah.
Will he wear WrestleMania Sunday against USF to the park? We'll
right. Yes. Does he go with an active wrestler in the WrestleMania card? Does he go with like a Shawn Michaels deal? Like, does he go retro? Like, does he have a Kurt? That's very fascinating.
Obviously we know he's pulling for Seth Rollins over Brock Lesnar. I mean, he picked Seth Rollins to win the Royal Rumble, which he was correct about. So, maybe I'll ask him tomorrow about the Becky Charlotte Ronda match. See if he's got a take there. this is what intrepid reporters do, Jeffrey. We don't wonder about Garrett Gilbert's NFL prospects.
Thank you.
Which I will say, if he wasn't good enough to be better than Dan Orlovsky in 2015, or be better than Connor Cook or Matt McGloin in 2016, he's not going to be an NFL quarterback.
Colin Kaepernick would like a word, by the way.
Colin Kaepernick was good.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. All right, that seems like a good place to wrap it. Just real quick, what you got now that we're in the lean part of the year, right? We can kind of throttle back a little bit with basketball out of the way. What are you guys working on? Start with you, Murph.
I'm going to see a baseball.
You're catching up on sleep. First of all, I know that.
I did sleep. No, that was Wednesday. I'll be back out there Thursday. I'll see if Trevor Holloway will be on the mound at all this weekend for UCF. And also this really weird thing that Lovelady brought up on Tuesday night about how Jordan Spicer was having a hard time seeing the pitch calls from his catcher. And Lovelady said, like, yeah, he couldn't really see the pitch calls. That's why we pitch him on Sundays a lot, because he doesn't have to worry about that because it's a day game. Like, wait. Are you saying your pitcher can't see the calls from the catcher? He said this, so I got to follow up on that. I didn't have a lot of time to do it last night at Stetson, but what, they can't get him some like contacts or even some little glasses or anything?
Oh boy, now that scene in Major League is coming in with
I know Sam Unger has already sent me. Sam Unger has already sent me a Charlie Sheen gif, so he's got it covered. He's already beat you to the punch there.
Lopez, what you got?
That's a heck of a follow there. I'll be calling the UCF Wichita State series this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then maybe at some point I'll swing by and see how Murph's doing at baseball afterwards in one of those games and broadcasting the baseball stuff. And then I know there's going to be content up there where I've got comments from a lot of the former teammates and former coaches on all of the Hall of Fame inductees, like Allison Kime and Alini Reyes, and we got, I think, comments from Jerry O'Neill, as a matter of fact, talking about Brandon Marshall and Kevin Smith. All that stuff's going to come out on Black and Gold Banneret.
Should be fun. And I'm actually putting together an article that I know you guys are very excited to see about how Orlando's pro football teams, outdoor football teams, are cursed.
Oh, God.
And I have video evidence of all of it. It is a Zapruder film Black and Gold Banneret investigation on the curse of Orlando pro football. And I'm not going to give you any further details. You're just going to have to wait for it to come out. It'll be coming out.
Question. So if the Apollos would have won the league, does the banner go up at Spectrum?
Yes. Put it up there, baby.
I will say, did you see the little back and forth that Rick Neuheisel and Steve Spurrier had on Twitter tonight?
I did not see that. No. Yeah. I know that FanDuel said that they were honoring the Apollos as the AAF champs, and if you put out a future bet on the Apollos to win the league, they paid it out.
Yeah.
So anyway, that sounds about as official as it gets.
But Rick Neuheisel is saying no, his team, and who does he coach, Jeffrey? You would know. I don't know.
That would be the Arizona Hotshots, by the way, which is a much better branded franchise than the Arizona Cardinals ever were. I just wanted to say that. But anyway.
Sure, whatever. Anyway, the Hotshots, because they beat the Orlando team, Rick Neuheisel is saying, no, the Hotshots are the champions. Steve Spurrier claps back at him by calling him he calls him Ricky New. Ricky New. And says, no, we're the champs.
The reason Neuheisel made that case, right, was because they beat him head-to-head?
No, he said, here's what he said. Ricky knew too much tequila for you.
Good line.
Goodness gracious.
Apollo 7-1, Hotshot San Antonio and Birmingham all 5-3. Congrats on second place. Oh, this is great.
Yeah, no. So we at least out of the ashes of this league, we got that Twitter beef. That was fantastic.
Oh, God, inject this right into my veins. I love it. All right. That's going to do it for us here on the Black and Gold Banneret podcast. Make sure you follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. Make sure you also follow all of us individually on Twitter, Jeff_Sharon, Eric Lopez Elo, Spokes_Murphy. Also, don't forget Luke Saris SBN, our buddy Jeremy Brenner as well at Jeremy Brenner. All of he's by the way, Jeremy is so locked in on the Houston Rockets right now because he's a Houston guy and we're coming down the stretch in the NBA playoffs.
Yep.
It's nuts. If I now know more about the Rockets than I know about the Magic, for crying out loud, because of him. Also want to make sure you follow Zach Goodall, who's going to be who's warming up for the NFL draft as well. Who am I missing? Oh, Derek Warden and all of his photo galleries. Thanks to Derek as well, who just does a fabulous job for us. And all those photos that you see that look the best ones, they're him. Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Derek. Thanks again to everybody. To those of you listening, make sure you follow us also on Twitter, UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/BlackandGoldBanneret. For Eric Lopez and Brian Murphy, I'm Jeff Sharon. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Enjoy the first weekend in April. Catch you next week.